Good morning, Indiana. Welcome to Who's Left This Week, the unapologetically progressive Sunday morning talk show for the Hoosier State. I am Scott Aaron Rogers, broadcasting from Blooming today. Another big week in the news. A lot of heavy stuff to talk about once again. Unfortunately, we gotta talk about that, but fortunately, we have a great panel of guests to join us today. We got a returning old friend and some new friends to the show, some fresh blood to inject into our little Sunday morning here. So got very excited to bring you our new folks. But first, real quick, a little bit of housekeeping. Got to take care of the promotion here. We would appreciate very much a subscription at Progressive Indiana Network, our new network with a bevy of Indiana content creators, all coming at you from a progressive perspective. The website there is progressiveindiana.net. Again, would appreciate a subscription. It's free. There are paid options, only $5 a month or $50 a year to help this project grow. We can also be found on social media. The handle for Progressive Indiana Network is the full name spelled out on most of your sites. At TikTok and Blue Sky, it is at PIN Indiana. You can find me at HoosLeft.us on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads. The handle is at Who's Left everywhere else. If you go to HoosLeft.us, that takes you to my little corner of the PIN website. All right, enough of that. No more commercials. Let's bring in our panel for today. First, coming back to the show, first time in a long time, there is Eric Love. Eric, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. It's good to be with you, Scott.
Eric, so good to see you, and I love the sweatshirt there.
No secrets on where I am politically or in the game tomorrow.
I always tell people we really do live in the upside down, where we're on the verge of falling into a full authoritarian country. But hey, how about them Hoosiers?
Right.
It's a real roller coaster ride, I'll tell you. Let us also welcome in at this time our new friend and first-time guest, actress, singer, organizer, activist, wearer of many hats, Lori Ecker. Lori, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. I've admired your work for a very long time. I'm glad that you have branched out with Indiana Progressive Network. We need all the wonderful media that we can get in Indiana. So I am happy to help you here today. I have lots of thoughts and opinions on everything that's happening. So I also want to note that I do have under my name there, Red State Support Network. It's a group that I have started under Swing Blue Alliance, which is a group I work with out of Boston. But I live here in Indianapolis, Indiana. I am very committed and devoted to Indiana because I live here and I'm a Hoosier and I want Hoosiers to be happy. So I am thrilled to be with you guys today. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Lori. It's great to have you here. And finally, let's welcome in our final guest this week. There is, coming at us from the 219 with his fantastic bear sweater. Big game tonight also. Yeah, there we are. There's Brandon Dothinger from the Ballot Boxers and CampaignFinance.app. Brandon, I've been meaning to have you here for a long time. I'm glad we could finally make this work.
Love it. Good morning, Scott, Eric, and Lori. Great to meet you all and the whole Who's Left audience out there. I will say I know this is a political show, but it's a football weekend right now. I've been in the state of Indiana. It's a football weekend is what it is.
If we didn't have a little bit of circus, I think we would all go crazy. Because like I said at the top, it's another heavy week, and let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to bring our graphics here up on the screen. And there we are. So I want to start this week back in Minnesota. Now, we talked about this last week with the unfortunate murder of Renee Good in the in the land of 10,000 lakes up there. The protests continue. The occupation continues. A lot going on. I'm going to read for a moment here. So on Monday, state officials in Minnesota, along with the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, as well as a separate suit from the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago, these groups filed lawsuits against the federal government in federal court, claiming that the deployment of these ICE agents to both states' metro areas violated the Constitution and states' rights. Both states claim the Trump administration has interfered with public safety in direct violation of their 10th Amendment right against federal overreach and state sovereignty, which reserves to states the right to protect the health, safety, and well-being of residents. Both states also accuse the administration of targeting them because of their political leanings. Now, on Wednesday, a federal judge in a hearing held via telephone, the judge denied the state's request to force an immediate end to the operation, but did keep the lawsuit on a fast track. Federal authorities are expected to submit their response to the suit no later than tomorrow, Monday the 19th. There's another lawsuit going on. ACLU suing the Trump administration over racial profiling and unlawful arrests. This is a 72-page lawsuit filed on Thursday on behalf of 3 community members, all of whom are U.S. citizens. The ACLU accused federal immigration agents of violating these citizens' constitutional rights, arguing that Somali and Latino communities in the state have been disproportionately targeted. Now, all of that is going on while ICE is on the streets harassing people, and they shot another guy this week. Now, fortunately, only in the leg. But still, this is Wednesday. A federal agent shot and injured a man in Minneapolis in an incident that touched off more clashes between protesters and law enforcement officers. Came exactly a week after an immigration agent killed Renee Nicole Good. Now, stepping away from Minnesota for a second, these guys are trigger happy. Out in California, they blinded a couple guys. They shooting protesters in the face at close range with what they call less lethal rounds. Well, it might not kill you, but it'll blind you. So it should be noted that the majority of Americans are horrified by this. A Quinnipiac poll that came out this week found 53% of registered voters say the shooting of Renee Good was not justified, 35% saying it was. A similar CNN poll found 56% of Americans say the shooting was an inappropriate use of force, with just 26% saying it was appropriate. There are a large number of undecided folks in both of these polls. I don't know how you can not have an opinion on this, but maybe that's just me. A CNN poll also found that 51% of Americans say ICE enforcement actions are making cities less safe, with 31% saying they are making cities safer. So, for everything going on, I think Americans are relatively united in that they don't want this on their streets. In Minnesota, Governor Walz urged protesters to be loud and urgent, but also peaceful. He called on protesters to establish a record of what's happening in the communities, tells folks to get that phone out and hit record. Attorney General Keith Ellison is requesting folks submit their videos for potential state charges. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry is telling people to remain peaceful and don't take the bait. Now, Trump, for his part, is launching an investigation into those folks, into Governor Walz, into Mayor Fry. The Justice Department on Friday launching this investigation for allegedly obstructing federal law enforcement officers in their state. Walz said in a statement that, quote, weaponizing the justice system and threatening political opponents is a dangerous authoritarian tactic, end quote. Yeah, you don't say. Speaking of authoritarian tactics, Trump is also on record this week as having said, maybe we shouldn't even have elections, as he's threatening the Insurrection Act. Trump saying, quote, if the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE, who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in that once great state. Now, The Insurrection Act would allow Trump to federalize members of the state's National Guard in order to suppress protests, which have remained generally peaceful despite increasingly violent displays from federal agents. Now, meanwhile, Trump is musing about canceling or refusing to accept the outcome of the 2026 midterms, a familiar pattern for him. He says it's some deep psychological thing, but when you win the presidency, you don't win the midterms. When you think of it, we shouldn't even have an election. On those lines, with troops being involved, Governor Walz has mobilized the state National Guard. What he says is an effort to support local law enforcement. Now, the Guard has not been deployed. Trump has 1,500 soldiers on standby, 2 battalions from the Alaska-based 11th Airborne Division on prepare-to-deploy orders, according to a U.S. defense official. A lot there. So I guess, Eric, where do we even begin with all that?
A word that keeps... irony keeps coming to mind. This week, as he encouraged Iranians to protest and attack, threatening Iranian leadership that if they don't treat their protesters well, he will attack them while he's attacking our protesters. It's the upside down, as you mentioned it. I don't know where to start, but a few things I guess that I wanted to point out. Like he's talking about the Insurrectionist Act, where there was an actual insurrection, people were arrested, people were imprisoned. He pardoned them, and now a leak has shown that many of them are now the ICE agents, and so he's going to fight an insurrection with actual insurrectionists, according to him. So, yeah. All of these issues, I don't even know.
Orwellian shit, ain't it, Eric?
Say that again?
I said it's some real Orwellian shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is just mind-boggling how he can say the exact opposite of what he's doing. Like, I think that people would have been in favor of him arresting the worst of the worst immigrants and the criminals who are taking over communities and actually bringing in drugs and killing people, but he's going after hardworking, tax-paying immigrants who have families that have been here for decades, and going after American citizens who happen to be black, brown, or have a slight accent. The Biden administration and the Obama administration both managed to deport a hell of a lot of people, probably more than they needed to, but they didn't go about it like this. They were frankly more efficient and targeted, and you get the quote worst of the worst, right? And you don't just round up who the hell ever, and you certainly don't need to go in guns blazing with armed, masked thugs in like plate armor. Lori, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, my thoughts on all this, and this is where I think we kind of need to reframe or change our perspective on what goes on with Trump. I feel like, and I know it to be true, I read it repeatedly. I follow Heather Cox Richardson, and there's a lot of wonderful people that can break it down for you. But essentially what happens with him is everything that he does is a goal to intimidate. The governor, the mayor, the AG in Minnesota, they're all doing their jobs according to law, and he knows that. It's simply an intimidation tactic. And the problem is so many are truly scared of him that they back down or they try to concede. And he is a dictator. He is a sociopath. And you give him a little bit and he's going to keep pushing. The only choice they have is to continue to do their jobs as fearlessly as they can. I know they're afraid. It's a terrifying time. But all of us on every level, and that comes down to even the smallest levels in Indiana on the local level, as far as I'm concerned, our own city council needs to be fearless and push back on all this sort of thing, in whatever way they can. But we all have to show that pushback because he's a mob boss. It's literally classic mob boss behavior. So they need to go on doing what they're doing and try not to be afraid. We're all afraid, but we're all in this together. And it's just like what he did with Zelensky when he said, hey, we'll all you need to do is announce that you're going to investigate Hunter Biden, and then we'll release our funding to you that we promised we'd release to you. It started then, and it's the same thing over and over again. So we need to stick to our guns and try not to be too terrified, because the more all of us push back, the stronger we all become, and we can literally push back against this and be successful. That's my thoughts for it. So,
Brandon, you nod your head in agreement.
Absolutely. I second Lori on that, and Eric. This is basically a federal occupation that is dressed up as immigration enforcement, right?
Yeah.
And so I applaud the states of Illinois and the other state that filed a lawsuit. I will say, Indiana, I look forward to Todd Rokita joining with Illinois on their side of the lawsuit, being that he is a states' rights attorney general and invoking the 10th Amendment, right? Fun fact, so the Indiana Senate and our government in 2009 passed Senate Resolution 42 to basically extend our sovereignty under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. So there's plenty of precedent for Attorney General Rokita to join the states that are suing the federal government for this overreach and these federal troops on our streets. What are we doing here?
Gee, for some reason, I suspect Mr. Rokita will not be joining in on this. I worry. I know some people in Minneapolis, and they're posting on Blue Sky yesterday from some of these protests, and I worry, like the police and the National Guard are basically protecting the ICE officers and not protecting the citizens. I mean, especially with the local law enforcement, it is their duty to serve and protect the people in their communities. But I'm worried that cops are going to do cop stuff and they're going to stick together. Eric, are my concerns valid?
Yes, they are absolutely valid. I think there may be a few that are concerned, but most of them will just stick with each other, I believe.
And Lori, I mean, if say Governor Walz calls in the National Guard to protect his state, to protect his citizens, and Trump invokes the Insurrection Act and brings in active duty troops, that's not a good sign. That's some Civil War stuff.
It is. No, you're right. I mean, it's easy to think of all the worst case scenarios, and I do. I sometimes I don't doom scroll because I don't have social media. I've quit all social media a long time ago, and I really avoid the news. I really cultivate very carefully what I follow media wise. I watch nothing on TV. I just can't do it. So it's easy though to get sucked into this place where you're terrified that the worst can happen, and the worst can happen. And so that's why I think it's really, really important for us to think about how we will protect our communities. Yes, it can happen and it will be bad, and we don't know what that's going to look like. But this whole entire week, I've been thinking about how do we protect human lives, especially when things begin to happen in red states. I'm like, what is that going to look like here? Because we don't have an AG to stand up for us. He actually attacks us. We don't have a governor. He's attacking his own people because they didn't give away the last 2 seats in the U.S. House. Mm-hmm. So we as a community and as people, we all need to start thinking about how do we protect one another, because these things can happen. We're becoming a pariah nation. So pressure from outside of this country, I think, is going to be kind of helpful and maybe tempering. I'm no expert, but I do ponder that too. I'm like, what's it going to look like when nobody will have anything to do with us and we're attacking our own? Will we finally pull back? Will we finally get rid of him? I don't know. I don't know what will happen, but I think the thing that we need to focus on the most is how do we make a plan to protect each other? What do we do? especially in Indiana, because it will come here. It will. I mean, he's attacking the blue cities first, but hey, we're Indianapolis. We're a big blue island. I'm Indianapolis, sorry. So, what is it going to look like here? Right now, we've pushed back against, is it Forstall? Is that the name of the sheriff?
In Marion County there. Mm-hmm.
And I've not been activated on the end of it because I've just been too busy. I wish I could be involved in everything. I need 10 of me. But I know that he's actually come out and made the statement that our jail cannot sustain all these people, and he's just not going to cooperate with this insanity. I don't think he said it quite like that, but essentially he was on our side in the stance that he took. But how long will that last? To Eric's point, it's like, yeah, I mean, we have to assume they'll eventually be in cahoots with one another. So we have to find a way to be proactive and decide on our level as a community, what are we going to do? I'm following Minnesota to see what they're doing. I highly recommend you follow organizations there. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I do feel. Oh, sorry, Eric. Go ahead.
I was just gonna, one thing that I just thought about when our legislature did not give up our last 2 seats, then the Trump administration threatened to pull federal funding from the state of Indiana because we didn't agree with him on that. And if you live in a red state and you don't do what he wants, he still threatens you. I remember he threatened Michigan. He threatened so many different. Michigan is not a red state, but he threatens any state to pull federal funding. Like, one man has power to pull the federal funding for a state, even when they support him in 99% of what he's doing. He betrays everyone, by the way. Everyone that he ever works with. Yes, it's true.
And as like what Lori said, he behaves like a mob boss. He really does.
Absolutely.
Brandon, final words on Minnesota before we move on.
I mean, this Trump term too, I think the fact it's just so much more egregious than the first term, and it really emphasizes what we need to do to make sure that this never happens again. Like, there are arguments that I accepted in the past that I will never accept again because I've learned the lesson. I hope other people throughout Indiana have learned the lesson as well. I mean, these are our neighbors, our fellow members of our nation, and this is not what America is. It's despicable.
Thank you. Well said. So, we were talking about the Insurrection Act, destroying American institutions, the 10th Amendment, the Constitution. Well, along those lines, there's a whole bevy of other institutions under attack this week, and I just want to go through a list here. So the Federal Reserve, for example, on Monday, the Justice Department opened a criminal investigation into Fed Chair Jerome Powell and his statements to Congress regarding renovations of the Fed's headquarters in Washington. Powell, in a statement last Sunday night, said, quote, "This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It's not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public discourse, has made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president." So, undermining the independence of the Fed, a very shaky foundation upon which our entire economy rests. The past 3 Fed chairs, Alan Greenspan, he's still alive. Ben Bernanke and Janet Yellen were among 13 economic officials that served under both Republican and Democratic presidents to sign on to a statement calling this inquiry unprecedented and the use of prosecutorial attacks to undermine its independence. Even Scott Bessent, Trump's Treasury Secretary, is unhappy about this. So, in addition to the Fed, there are the federal courts. The number 2 federal prosecutor in Virginia's Eastern District was fired for declining to lead a prosecution of former FBI Director James Comey. This is in the same district where Lindsay Halligan was appointed U.S. Attorney. She's still serving, even though a federal judge said she was wrongly appointed, and he keeps having her back before the court to say, why do you still keep calling yourself a U.S. Attorney? The courts, the Fed, the free press, The FBI this week raided the home of a Washington Post reporter in a highly unusual and aggressive move. According to The Guardian, agents descended on the Virginia home of Hannah Nathanson as part of an investigation into a government contractor accused of illegally retaining classified documents. Now, Nathanson has described herself as the Post's federal government whisperer, said she would receive calls all day and night from federal workers who wanted to tell her how the Trump regime was rewriting their workplace policies, firing colleagues, or transforming the agency's mission. She's got like something close to 1,200 sources. All are current or former federal employees who trusted her with their stories. I think this is about much more than this one leaker who is in custody now, and about those near 1,200 other people, and that they can go after them. Even the Smithsonian is under attack. On Tuesday, the Smithsonian had to turn in plans after Trump demanded a wide-ranging review of the Smithsonian's exhibits, materials, and operations to ensure they align with President Trump's view of American history. The president signed this executive order way back in March of last year, placing Vice President Vance in charge of supervising efforts to, quote, remove improper ideology from all areas of the Smithsonian and targeted funding for programs that advance, quote, divisive narratives. So, additionally, our healthcare infrastructure in this country is under attack. Now, there was a glimmer of good news because a federal judge ordered the HHS to restore funding to the American Academy of Pediatrics, but RFK Jr., the HHS secretary, appointed two vocal opponents of vaccine use in pregnancy to a federal vaccine advisory board. And finally, NATO, our entire defense infrastructure since the end of World War II, is under threat now over Greenland. Diplomats from Denmark and the semi-autonomous territory had a meeting in Washington with Vice President Vance and Secretary of State Rubio. They decided to set up a, quote, high-level working group, but, no real decisions were made. Meanwhile, a bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers went to Denmark on Friday, seeking to lower the temperature with assurances of congressional support after President Trump's threats to seize the Arctic island. European nations, NATO allies are sending troops to Greenland as the U.S. is escalating their threats. Several countries deploying small numbers of military personnel to participate in joint exercises with Denmark, including Germany, Sweden, France, Norway, the Netherlands, and Finland. Canada and France have also said they plan on opening consulates in the Greenlandic capital of Nuuk in the coming weeks. Now, in response to this, President Trump says he is slapping tariffs on those 8 countries, 10% on all goods from those 8 European nations because of their opposition to American control of Greenland, which he says would jump to 25% on June 1st if no deal was in place for the, quote, complete and total purchase of Greenland by the United States. So, again, a lot there. Eric, which one of those institutions falling scares you the most?
Most of them equally. The one that I will address because I recently visited was a Smithsonian museum, and so by saying doing away with exhibits or entire museums because of their narrative is negative on the U.S. or because it doesn't align with the president's idea of what American history should be, let alone, not to mention that it's American history is American history. There's no ideology behind it. It's just history. It's the facts. It's what happens. That's what happened. And so I'm very concerned about absolutely erasing the contributions and the achievements of people of color. I know he was going after the African American Museum on History and Culture, and tomorrow is Martin Luther King's holiday. He's asked the federal agencies to not celebrate that holiday or Black History Month or Women's History Month. So to absolutely erase all the contributions and achievements of anyone who's not a white male is what he's been doing. They've erased certain war heroes that are buried in Arlington. They removed them from the website, so you can't look up who's buried there. Firing generals and colonels who are people of color or women. All of those things just to erase any contribution and any achievements. So again, our history will be, white males, only of what they've achieved. And I grew up in Idaho. When I lived there, the Black population was 0.29%. So I moved to Idaho in 5th grade. It wasn't until 11th grade that I had any writing by a person of color, and it was Martin Luther King. And then it wasn't until college that I actually had more than one assignment, either writing or book or learning about people of color in the U.S. and their achievements, other than slavery, of course. We could learn about being slaves.
Yeah, and I didn't even put it in this week's show notes, but I believe Trump said something about the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act being discriminatory against white people.
Yes,
and
reverse racism.
Again, it just tells you what kind of timeline we're living in, where something like that is just another headline that doesn't get elevated to the top. Lori, which of those institutions falling scares you the most?
Well, I got to say, of course, I agree with Eric, and I'm sure all of it does. I mean, every bit of it is what defines our country and us as a people, everything, all of our history, even the stuff we haven't really even begun to yet talk about, especially Native Americans and what we did when we came here. So all of that is devastating to me. I spent a lot of time on reservations, so that's a very special topic to me. But it's almost, and I don't know if I just said this, I'm sorry, it's like comparing apples and oranges. What I think I fear the most, what I have to pick out the most would be what they're doing to the CDC. This Robert Kennedy is terrifying. He's insane. He really is. He may make a few good points here and there, but what is that saying? Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just, you can't listen to that. And what I really fear the most is we were already way behind in our research on any potential viral threats to be coming towards us. If we thought COVID was bad, there's a whole lot waiting to come towards us. And we could have a worldwide, once again, pandemic that is way worse than COVID. And we are wholly unprepared in this country. I don't know how we would survive that. So that, I think, does scare me the most, especially for those frontline workers that try to save lives. If we eradicate the people that will take care of us, we're lost. So those are the kinds of things that keep me awake at night. But I would highly recommend following a Substack called Inside Medicine for any of those who are interested about what's going on with the vaccine stuff and all that. This guy, I can't think of the doctor's name, but he's wonderful. He does a lot of interviews and articles. He's fantastic. And it'll kind of keep you updated without feeling too paranoid. But I think once again, it's very important for us to be prepared as much as we can, arm ourselves with information, but prepare ourselves as best we can and try not to obsess about it. But that's what worries me the most. Within the country, within our country.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the COVID and how there are all sorts of different potential pandemics just waiting to be sprung upon us that we're not really tracking going forward. Who knows what kind of viruses are percolating under the frozen tundra that will come forth as climate change happens. Maybe in Greenland, perhaps. Yes. Brandon, I mean, listen, if we come to loggerheads with our European allies over Greenland and the NATO alliance falls apart, it's I don't know, man. We're like wading into World War III, aren't we?
I mean, this president, the way that I think we've already entered a new political era as a result of electing Trump to 2 non-consecutive terms. Our allies don't trust us anymore. And so this is kind of just the very beginning of that. All future presidents are also going to have to deal with this issue that the world that used to trust America in the post-World War II landscape no longer does in a multitude of different ways. not just with Greenland, but also with respects to Gaza, and with respect to so many other different issues. Going back, I did want to answer that question. I wanted to go at that question. The institutional thing that worries me the most is definitely the free press. It's the First Amendment for a reason. And there's just so much garbage coming down the pipeline all the time in all regards, and I know that. But in particular, the attacks on anybody who criticizes him, that is dangerous. And it's like I said, it's the First Amendment for a reason. And then as for the Fed, I mean, I will say I'm more of a, and I know Scott shares my view on this, I'm a Stephanie Keaton person myself. That being said, I believe in the independence of the Fed. I don't. There's good reason why the founders didn't want the Fed to be a political body for the stability of the economy. And I mean, Trump has Alan Greenspan and Janet Yellen on the same page about something. So he's might be the first time in history on that. The Fed could tank the entire economy and lead to famine and all sorts of horrific economic disasters. There's plenty of economic history on various disasters if you want to read about it. But screwing with the dollar like he is it could lead to the most loss of lives. So
yeah, the entire world economy really is resting on the stability of the U.S. dollar. So if the Fed goes under, bad for everybody, great for the Trump crypto coin, though. Yeah. And I think that's what this all comes to. Now, I want to move on to our next story, and it's ironic in a way that we're talking about the authoritarian impulses of our president and peaceful protests in our country that they are labeling as riots and insurrection. But over in Iran, there is, real protest, life-threatening. People are dying over there. I think I've seen the death toll get up to 5,000 even since I've written today's show notes. So let's talk about Iran. Now, Trump during this week threatened, quote, strong military action as these protests continued. These began in late December over the collapse of the country's currency in an economy already squeezed by international sanctions. And they have spread and grown in some circles. They're calling for the end to Iran's theocracy. The regime has responded by cutting off the internet and phone networks. On Monday, in response to the protests, Iranian leaders drew their own counter-protests, pro-government demonstrators to the streets. Now, Iran experts say the country's regime is at its weakest since the Islamic Republic came into existence in 1979. Now, like I said, I saw a number today that said 5,000 people have officially been killed, and that's from the Iranian authorities. Consensus is building that thousands have been killed, perhaps even more than that 5,000. I've seen estimates up to 12 or even 20,000 dead in Iran. President Trump said on Wednesday, however, that the killings had stopped. They were executing protesters. Apparently, that has come to an end, thankfully, and Trump apparently backed down from the threat of imminent military intervention. However, the exiled crown prince of Iran, the Shah's son, called for the U.S. to take decisive action against what he called the instrument of repression in Tehran to stop the brutal crackdown of anti-government protests and warned against any deals with the country's autocratic leaders. Eric, the irony, right? I mean, you mentioned this at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, it's first, it's just heartbreaking to see how bad the Iranian people are doing, right? Like the oppression, but also the lack of resources. They're running out of water in, I believe it's Tehran. because of sanctions, and some of the sanctions absolutely are warranted. Some are not. They've been accused of doing things that maybe they haven't actually done. But so it's not a great place to live, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And so the real victims in this are absolutely the Iranian people, who many align with the U.S. They love U.S. culture. They disagree with their government, like many of us disagree with ours. And so, yeah, it's absolutely heartbreaking. But it is the irony of Trump calling for those protesters to destroy institutions, to take over the country, and then for us to shoot our protesters in the face as they try to drive away. No, it's
Yeah. I mean, like, the irony should be lost on nobody.
Right.
Lori, I mean, but not like the Iranians are the good guys in this situation. This is like
Correct.
two terrible options pitted against each other.
They are, and I've got some thoughts on that too. By golly, I ponder just about everything that goes on. I really feel, okay, first of all, Trump is a sociopath. And I knew that like immediately when he made his comment about grabbing them, So I'm like, yeah, this is going to be bad.
Yeah.
I think what he does, and I think what he's doing in this case, is he's trying to get his base, especially here, and the rest of us to believe, look, I'm a good guy. I care about people getting killed over there by a dictator. That's horrible. That's awful. And I'm going to step in and I'm going to help those people. But that's not what's going on here. They're attacking our ICE agents and hurting them and killing them and shooting them. Even though we see the footage, it's 1984. It's totally Orwellian. You're going to believe what I tell you, not your lying eyes and ears. So I think he's employing that Orwellian tactic in saying, hey, I'm actually a good person because I care. But what you're seeing here isn't really happening. How anybody would be doxing, I got to just say this because nobody has said it yet that I've heard. They say they're doxing. Okay, Noam lies about how they're getting all doxed, but how the hell are they doxing people? They don't even know who they are. Their faces are completely covered. You can't see their names. You can't see their badges. There's nobody to dox when they hide their identity. How anybody doesn't put those two things together and say, this doesn't make sense, is beyond me. But once again, we're in this Orwellian time frame. I'm a good guy. I'm not doing that here, and I'm going to intervene over there. I swear that's what it is. It's just pure Orwellian tactics.
Yeah, at least the Iranian Revolutionary Guard shows their faces in public. Brandon, now, is the Iranian regime in danger of falling, do you think? Or because we've seen these mass protest movements in Iran multiple times over the last several years. It was women-led a couple years ago. There was like a green revolution. God, it was like 2009 maybe. And every time we kind of get our hopes up and say, hey, this theocracy is going to fall. Good for them. Is this the time?
I mean, it's certainly possible. It's because of the fact that there is a currency crisis that's happening simultaneous, caused by U.S. sanctions, by the way, right? Mm-hmm. So we create the destabilization, then go in and promise, going back to what you said in the beginning about how this is a no sides winning situation. I support the protesters and the people on the streets of Iran, but you have to make sure to watch out. You have to consider the whole history of Iran and the Iranian Revolution. The people who are calling for U.S. intervention from palaces and things of that nature are the same people who were operating in the 79 revolution to topple a democracy. So this is a power issue. And I speak of the Reza Pahlavi people. So you've got the Shah, Reza Pahlavi, and now you have the new one that's basically like the spokesperson, Reza Pahlavi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's an exiled crown prince, and he's the one who's calling for American intervention, which this might even present for some sort of segue into what's happening in Venezuela. But I mean, this just keeps happening again and again, where we get ourselves involved in foreign affairs and it's collapsing. And I would recommend to any listener, I believe the author is Bill Blum, Killing Hope. He has a great book that goes over the history of American intervention in various countries' affairs, particularly in the Middle East. And it never actually works for the people of that nation, basically ever. So for anybody who is pounding war drums, I recommend Killing Hope by Bill Blum.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody here in this chat's old enough to remember Iraq, and that didn't go terribly well. It's still not going terribly well for the people there. And yeah, I mean, our history with Iran goes back decades, and we've been interfering there the entire time. Like we said, just not a lot of good options. I mean, neither their theocracy nor our oil interests make for much good governments. Speaking of American oil interests throwing their weight around and getting us involved in other countries, I want to turn to Venezuela this week, where talks with the hardline Venezuelan, one of their ministers became public this week. So this is from Reuters. Now, the Trump administration has been in discussions with their hardline interior minister, Diosdado Cabello, months before the U.S. operation to seize President Nicolas Maduro, and have been in communication with him since then, according to multiple people familiar with the matter. So, if I may interject before I go on, it sounds like this is an inside job. They cut a deal with one of the people on the inside to get rid of the head and keep the body in place. Like I said, these communications had not previously been reported, but they are critical to the Trump administration's efforts to control the situation inside Venezuela. If Cabello decides to unleash the forces that he controls, it could foment the kind of chaos that Trump wants to avoid and threaten interim President Delcy Rodriguez's grip on power. Cabello is one of the handful of Maduro loyalists Washington has relied on as temporary rulers to maintain stability. Now, meanwhile, I mentioned the oil. Trump's plans for this Venezuelan oil are meeting a difficult reality. According to the New York Times, Trump's plans are beginning to run into headlong into reality, they say, starting with the apparent reluctance of the major oil companies to plunge immediately into Venezuela, and the related fact that, unlike Russia or Saudi Arabia, the U.S. does not have a national oil company ready to do the government's bidding. Trump's strategy raises the question of how much energy dominance is really worth nowadays, given that many analysts believe that a vast oversupply of oil is already sloshing around global markets. Yet, Trump's view of oil as a driving force in geopolitics has been fixed in Trump's mind since at least the 80s, because he hasn't learned anything since then. That's me interjecting, not the Times. Now, meanwhile, on Thursday, opposition leader from Venezuela, Maria Corina Machado, was in Washington visiting Trump, where she presented him with her Nobel Peace Prize medal, the president calling it a wonderful gesture of mutual respect. Again, we mentioned this last week. The Nobel Institute issued a statement saying that the prize can neither be revoked, shared, nor transferred to others. Once the announcement has been made, the decision stands for all time. But alas, there is the Nobel Peace Prize in Trump's possession. We can debate whether or not Ms. Machado is actually a good actor in this situation, whether she deserves a Nobel Prize, but that's neither here nor there. I guess, Lori, since we've changed positions since last time, I'm going to start with you, going to the right of me. Hey, no, it's all good. This is just so I can keep track of where we're at. But Lori, I don't know where do we begin here in this one?
I don't know. I think it's a shame that the Nobel Prize Committee, I don't know. And there's talk about, are they really kind of a political committee at this point? Some people debate that. I haven't delved enough into it to know, but I think it's a shame they can't revoke it, because I really believe they should. What she's done is just enabled, once again, what so many people do, or is enabled what he does and who he is and what he is. So that was terribly disappointing to me. I wanted to tear my hair out over that. In regards to I can't wait to hear what Brandon has to say about this, because I really love the food for thought you gave me on our prior discussion. But I thought as soon as I heard about, is it Maduro? I'm sorry, am I saying that correctly? Maduro, when he was taken, I thought, wow, that seemed kind of easy. I'm wondering if that was an inside job. Like, so and the more I'm hearing about it, the more I'm thinking something's going on. They've got something going on, probably like they have something going on in Iran with whoever wants to take over or whatever. I mean, that just made me think a lot more about why he's doing what he's doing with Iran. So I can't really talk intelligently on either one of those things, other than my gut feeling tells me there's all kinds of stuff going on the inside and on the backside of what we can't see and what we don't hear. I can't wait to hear. Well, and Eric, I can't wait to hear your thoughts too. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to slight you, my dear.
Oh, no, not at all. No, I've been learning from both of you as well, taking notes when Brandon recommends a book so. Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's all kinds of machinations going on everywhere now. I mean, we've got a really corrupt political system in so many places. And, what we're doing, I think, greatly emboldens and creates much more horrific things happening worldwide. As we see, that's what's going on because we're falling. So that's all I have to say on that. And I'm eager to hear what Eric and Brandon have to say, too. So thank you.
Well, yeah, like Brandon, I mean, this is about the oil, but like they said in there, does it even matter? I mean, the price of oil is, like in the 50s of dollars per barrel. It's not terribly profitable right now. I understand that the oil in Venezuela is very difficult to refine. It's heavy, it's sulfuric, and companies are reluctant to go in there because it's unstable. I mean, what was this all for?
I mean, it's a power exercise. It's just like Greenland or anything else. He's pushing the boundary anywhere he can, and Venezuela's situation presents for an opportunity, right? So, because of the Venezuelan situation, they can come in. It's a very like. It's like a crystal clear. Rarely do you get such a crystal clear of like crystal clear vision of the naked ambition of imperialism. You have like various people in Trump's administration basically talking about how it's for oil. Obviously, what did we do in Iraq in 2003? We were in there for oil, obviously. Makes me think of banana republics and such. But
Brandon, I thought we were there for freedom.
Oh, we're
our freedom to their oil.
We're not there for freedom. So I do want to point out a quick hypocrisy. So why is it that we just overthrew Maduro, right? And the reason why we justified what we did was that we indicted him on State Department charges for basically narco something, right? Isn't that correct?
They've invented this term narco-terrorism. Yeah.
And so now we are getting behind Diosdado Caballo. Sorry, this is a new name, so I got to learn it. It's this guy's new. Diosdado Caballo. In 2020, we designated this dude a narco-terrorist. So it's like the perfect example of how we're just weaponizing the judiciary and the State Department and the Department of War, and
right.
so on.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, Eric, yeah, go ahead.
The same breath we're arresting Maduro, I mean, for billions of dollars at an expense, then he pardons the former Honduran president who was convicted for the same thing, but
mountains of cocaine. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Different substance. And the reason Venezuela doesn't import fentanyl, which is what they said he was doing. And that's not the case. And so when one moment Trump is saying it's because of the drugs, and then it slips out and they have oil. And then everybody else is talking about oil. So we know that it was all about the oil to begin with, but I don't know if they just weren't smart enough to know that Venezuelan oil is very different. He thought he would open it up for his friends who are the CEOs of the oil companies, and America's going to take over their oil company, and the U.S. and we will the Venezuelan people will benefit, and Americans will benefit from it, but really only the companies would benefit. But it's too expensive for them to invest in it, so they don't even want it. So now all of that is for what? So sometimes they don't think things through, maybe most of the time. The other thing is, we don't need to get involved with Iran. We don't need to get involved with Venezuela. They're not running our country well at the moment. Like,
right.
They're not equipped to do that. Rubio has like 5 jobs now. he's running Venezuela. He can't do all this.
Yeah, and he's not particularly good at any of them. But, it's really ironic, and I don't know. I don't know where to even go with this. We've got troops on the streets of our own country, major American city under occupation. We've got institutions crumbling all around us. Yet we're swinging our might around in Venezuela, threatening Greenland, threatening Iran. It really kind of goes to show you this administration's priorities when that's what they're focused on. Meanwhile, moving on to healthcare, everybody's premiums are just gone through the roof. So from NBC, on Monday, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services released data showing that nationally, signups are down more than 800,000 from last year. This is on the ACA exchanges. Fewer new enrollees are signing up, and fewer people are renewing their coverage. And then some of the people who have signed up for 2026 may never even make their first premium payments, and insurers typically terminate those plans weeks or months later, meaning the full scope of these coverage losses may not become clear for months. Meanwhile, states like California, Kentucky, and New York report that new signups are down and that more enrollees are shifting to the cheaper bronze plans, the lower tier options, which come with high deductibles. So premiums up, coverage down, people not renewing, people getting cheaper plans. And the Senate, meanwhile, is nowhere near a deal to extend the Obamacare subsidies. Recall last week, the House did pass a bipartisan bill to offer a clean extension on the ACA subsidies for 3 years, defying Speaker Mike Johnson. I want to say it was something or somewhere around 10 Republicans crossed the aisle to sign on to that thing. Well, the Senate's been haggling over their own bill for a while, but they left town Thursday afternoon for 10 days with no deal to revive premium enhanced Obamacare subsidies and no sign they're moving toward any compromise on the key hangups. Senators involved in these talks are struggling to reach agreement among themselves, and even if they can, the group would still need to build consensus among senators on both sides of the aisle to get this thing passed, and then reconcile it with the House, and then convince President Trump to sign it. One of the hangups is that anti-abortion groups are showing no sign of letting up in their pressure campaign to get new language restricting federal funding for abortion services added to any Obamacare subsidies deal. Again, it's already incredibly difficult. They want to make it even more difficult for people, even in blue states where the procedure is legal, to attain abortions. Meanwhile, while the ACA is flailing and hanging on by a thread, Trump this week unveiled his own healthcare plan. Hey, look, finally, concepts of a plan coming into focus, right? So almost a year and a half after announcing during a pre-election debate that he had the concepts of a plan for healthcare reform, they issued this short document this week titled The Great Healthcare Plan, providing 4 headline objectives, but no real specific details as to how they will be achieved. The Trump administration says it intends to lower prescription prices and healthcare premiums, hold big insurance companies accountable by requiring them to publish their claim costs, overhead, and profits, and push insurers and medical providers to provide greater transparency over pricing. Not a whole lot of how in this document. So, Lori, coming back to you here.
Well,
I mean, like, priorities, right? We've got people sick, can't afford our health care here, and we're gallivanting across the globe on foreign adventures.
Right. All I can say is they could just keep pounding the nails in their coffin, I guess. I just don't even know what to say. We need We need Medicare for all. Or Medicaid, whatever they want to call it. We need it. It's insane that we live in this country like we do. People under crushing medical debt. Some of them, will they ever get out from under it? I doubt it. Kind of like school loans, students that, no, not everybody has to go to college, but if you want to go to college, you should be able to pay your loans off. Even if it's not free, it should be something you should be able to pay off. And it's once again, all of this is about taking that money and taking those services for a social safety net, which we need. We need a social safety net infrastructure. We're the only developed country at this level that doesn't have those things. But that money is funneled to the oligarchy. That money is funneled to the 1%, less than 1%. And that is their priority. That's who's lining their pockets. That's the people who have their boots on the throats of these, and Democrats too, the GOP. And there's so many things to unpack and so many things to fix before we could fix the other things, that right now, I think what people really need to do is start screaming very loudly about Medicare for all. We're not going to fix an insurance-based system for health insurance. It's about the bottom line. All they care about is profit. It's never going to be any different. We will be living this nightmare, and it will only continue to get worse. So people need to be heard. If they go on the streets, they want to protest, Medicare for all, give us Medicare for all. Call their damn representatives, even the dirtbags. Call them all. Just keep calling them, because that's really what we need to focus on if we want to live healthy lives. If we don't want to, so many people are going to reduce their lifespans because they can't have the medications and treatments that they need. People will simply die prematurely, and that's just all there is. And people will die of diseases they don't need to die of. It's already happening. So that, I think, is really our only hope, is insisting upon that we enact that. The rest of the shit, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
You're fine. I'm going to try not to say the F word. I'm really good at that. Sorry. But we can focus on later, the reforms that need to be in place. But right now, we really need to push them for that. And it's not going to come easy. It's not. But I just don't see any other way around it other than insisting upon that. And we all need to collectively do it. Once people are sick and dying enough, it will happen. But it's going to be sad to watch that happen. That's my thoughts on that.
Brandon, in a way, like, this kind of goes hand in hand with all the foreign adventurism, right? It's like, why do we refuse to learn from other countries? Why are we always going it alone, be it with foreign wars or be it with refusing to learn the lessons other countries have from their healthcare systems? We're the only major country on earth that doesn't have some form of universal healthcare. And Lori says it's the oligarchs, it's the money. Is that it? Is that all this comes down to? Is that we're held hostage by the rich?
No, I mean, yes, that is an aspect of it, but I mean, another aspect of it is that we are just love to be rugged individualists here in America, right? And so I think one of the in this particular example, in the extensions of the ACA, since 2020, okay, the enrollment in the ACA grew by 88% of the enrollment that grew was from states that Trump won. So these are people who are culturally voting for people beyond even oligarchic reasons. As Scott mentioned, there's the abortion component as the wedge issue, that they're basically, for this abortion issue, because there are religious people who do not want certain funds for things. We have 800,000 Americans going without health care and dropping to bronze plans with $8,000 deductibles. I mean, let's be clear about how bad, when you combine too, all these things coming together, I do really worry about a catastrophic economic event, because when there's no safety nets beyond the event. So when we talk about other things like the AI bubble, and I don't want to go too far off of the beaten path here, but when you don't have good government programs in place to help people in times of need, then times of serious need get even worse. And you don't have the infrastructure that you need And Republicans, they care about this a lot. They'll get back to it in 10 days. Leave a voicemail.
Eric, your thoughts? Oh, you're on mute, sir.
Thanks. When people don't have health care, then they go to the emergency room, which will end up costing more money anyway. And so it's not saving anyone money by not providing health care. Every little thing. I know people that don't have health care, they go to the emergency room for everything. And it ends up costing them money, but it also costs everybody money. I also, I was trying to research it really quick. I saw a story maybe 2 months ago. I don't know if I should even mention it because I can't find the proof, but basically what the story presented is that there was a time, I think it was after the Great Depression, where they were really pushing for universal health care. But proponents of it said, well, then the blacks will get it too. And we don't want to give them free health care. And so because of racism, then we don't have universal health care now, because they wouldn't do it for our country because they didn't want African Americans or Black Americans to benefit from that. And so if we have to give it to them, then we'll give it to no one. It was the premise of the article that I saw. So I'll see if I can find it before. If not today, I'll get it to you and you can post it on a website or something. So.
Absolutely, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, Truman pushed for universal health care, and then during the push for Medicare and Medicaid in the 1960s, the healthcare lobbyists hired some B-list actor to try to dissuade Congress from pushing this thing. His name was Ronald Reagan. Ever heard of that guy? Yeah, he was very much a front man for the anti-Medicare push, and God, that guy sucks. Everything wrong in this country goes through him at some point, including our bloated military, which I do want to cover briefly before we turn to our Indiana stories. In fact, I'm going to use one of these to pivot to Indiana. So let's talk about the Pentagon this week. Democratic Senator Mark Kelly sued the Pentagon on Monday over attempts to punish him for his warnings about illegal orders, claiming the Trump administration trampled on his constitutional rights to free speech. If you recall, this was earlier it was a couple months ago at this point, when Kelly and 6 lawmakers in total who had served in the military or intelligence community issued a social media video reminding our troops that it is their duty to resist unlawful orders. Hegseth, the defense secretary, said he censured Kelly over his participation in that video and said the January 5th censure, which by itself is simply a formal letter with little practical consequence, was a necessary process step to proceedings that could result in a demotion from Kelly's retired rank of captain and subsequent reduction in retirement pay. They're in particularly picking on Kelly in this situation because he is a retired officer and thus subject to recall by the military. Now, they did not stop with Kelly, though, because Michigan Senator Alyssa Slotkin says prosecutors are also investigating her after that video. On Monday, she said in an interview that she found out about this from the office of Jeanine Pirro, the former Fox personality and U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, a longtime ally of the president's. Also, in military news this week, the Pentagon is reviewing the effectiveness of women in combat roles. More than a decade after the full integration, women were formally integrated into ground combat units in 2015, but now more than a decade later, the Pentagon has recently started a review of the performance of thousands of women serving in ground combat units, a step that comes amid Secretary of Defense, I refuse to call him what he wants to call himself, Pete Hegseth's long expressed skepticism about their inclusion in such units. Over the next 6 months, the review will examine the performance and training outcomes of ground combat units, according to an internal Pentagon memo. Finally, in military news this week, U.S. Senator Todd Young of Indiana flipped his vote on a Venezuela war powers resolution after President Trump after pressure from President Trump. Excuse me. Now, Young was one of 5 Republicans who defied President Trump and voted with Democrats last week to limit the president's military power in Venezuela. But on January 14th, he was one of 2 Republicans who flipped, allowing the measure to fail. Young said, quote, in breaking with the party line that you should, you know what? I'm sorry. This is not a quote. In breaking with his party, Young and 4 others incurred Trump's wrath, who wrote in a Truth Social post that they were impeding the president's authority and should never be elected to the office again. The administration has since given some assurances. Secretary of State Rubio writing Young and others a letter in which he stated that if Trump decides to bring U.S. armed forces into Venezuela for major military operations, he'll seek congressional authorization first, though he added in parentheses, circumstances permitting. So, Lori, I guess, what jumps out to you there?
Okay, first of all, I assume everything they say is a lie. It's they're going to do whatever they want to do. They're a fascist, authoritarian regime, whatever you want to call them. So that right there, you can't trust any of it. As far as Todd Young is concerned, it's depressing. It really is depressing with him. I don't think we can count on him. He's cowardly. I'm going to be just really blunt here. And I've said this to all my friends. I'm like, he just needs to call up Liz Cheney, because I know she has a spare pair of balls that she can let him have. He doesn't have any guts. He's never going to. But we're stuck with him until maybe we can get Indiana voters to get rid of him. So once again, I'm just going to go back to this. I don't know what to say other than I want to say that even if they brought it before Congress and asked permission, I would be very doubtful that they would even listen. They're a lawless regime. They're going to do what they want to do. It doesn't matter what Congress says. It would be nice if at least we still had that. We still had Congress that would actually say, we're going to vote against this, so that at least we have that pushback in the Kobayashi Maru that we're in. But I don't know what to say. I other than we can keep the pressure on, I guess. We've been pressuring Todd Young, but it's just depressing to me. So I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts specifically on that. And I would be interested once again to hear from Eric and Brandon about, is there anything we can do? Is there any way we can affect this? I don't know.
Yeah.
Eric, go ahead.
I've been holding all these jokes, these comments in, but I want to say if women can't serve in the military, then Pete Hegseth can't wear makeup. Right, like he's
we just had that new powder room installed in the Pentagon, Eric. We would hate to see government wasteful spending and him not use it.
Shouldn't be allowed to use it if he revokes women, and he couldn't stand up to our women in the military anyway. But yeah, well, this is again, it's so it's infuriating just to have someone, firing colonels and generals who have worked their way to the top. And the military is not a walk in the park. I mean, I have a brother who was a colonel. And I asked him, like, did you have affirmative action? Did you have it easy? He's like, if there is a woman or a person of color who is a colonel, general, or officer, they earned it doubly. Like there is racism in the military as well. And if someone got to those positions, they earned it. And then to get rid of people who have earned it and then put in somebody like Pete Hegseth is just a slap in the face, and claim the other ones are the affirmative action hires when he is a yes man. And that's his qualifications, because there isn't one other qualification that he has.
Brandon, thoughts here?
Yeah, I feel sorry for the lifetime public servants who are just caught up in his absolute crap. It's so frustrating to see the entire federal government weaponized against good people like this. I think about the judge in Wisconsin that helped somebody go out the other door because ICE was waiting on them. I think about Mark Kelly now. It's very clear they are saying what people have said for generations. The Uniform Code of Military Justice, the UCMJ, Articles 90 to 92, give service members a duty to disobey lawful orders. The Nuremberg Principles also relieve soldiers of the responsibility of following unlawful orders. This is, and Todd Young, to briefly transition to this purportedly courageous man who is such a coward in office all the time. So he's going to defend us. He's going to defend the Constitution, not the executive, by the way, as just a quick aside. He's going to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, unless a Truth Social post changes his mind. What an interesting addendum to what used to be a powerful promise and duty.
Yeah, look, Todd Young, he's one of these guys. I wish you would just go ahead and be awful instead of like playing independent and acting like you have a spine, feigning concern, right? Like Susan Collins. Oh, I'm very concerned. But, when it really comes down to it, he always goes along with Trump. He always rolls over. I'll say it. Todd Young's a bitch. Speaking of Indiana Republicans who are a bitch, let's move to Indiana and talk about Todd Rokita. So the Attorney General, if you recall, sued the Indianapolis Public Schools recently. Now, at a retreat last Saturday, the IPS board rescinded 2 prior resolutions supporting undocumented students. One was adopted early in President Trump's first term, and the other was adopted early in his second term amid high-profile and controversial immigration enforcement efforts. This from an article in Mirror Indy. One 2017 resolution stated the district's support for creating a safe place for all students, regardless of immigration status. It directed employees not to assist immigration enforcement unless specifically required and authorized to do so by the superintendent. A new proposed policy on student access, safety, and privacy says the district will continue to protect the confidentiality of student records and information while providing equal access to public education for all students who live within the district, regardless of immigration status. Now, I don't know. They're just moving some words around. I don't know what the actual difference is. This proposal comes in the wake of a November lawsuit filed by Rokita's office that claims the district impeded federal immigration enforcement. Attorneys for IPS have said in court that the district would adopt a new policy that would render the state's lawsuit moot. So, Lori, it seems that's what they're doing here. Like, looking at the actual wording in this resolution, it's like, I don't think they're actually saying anything different. Is it just, are they moving words around to kick the can down the road and hope this lawsuit goes away?
I think you're right about that. And from what I could gather from it, it didn't seem to me like they were really saying anything different. I think you're spot on with that. I think what they're just trying to do is hold on to their promise to protect people and students. And I think they really do want to, but I think they're also trying to appease, once again, Todd Rokita. He is not our AG. He attacks Hoosiers. He's everything I see him do is about attacking people here. So they're trying to placate him, which is never a good idea. I know that we are under the boot of tyranny in Indiana, hardcore, but I still believe that we need to just stand firm, just like people should with Trump, and say, no, we by law, by agreements and policies that have been put in place that are legally in place, we are going to protect our students. We are not breaking any laws, and we're going to do what's ethically right and lawful. And instead of saying that, they're trying to like fudge it, saying, okay, we've rewritten it so that we can please you and you can feel like we're not breaking the law. But I'm going to tell you something, every single time with people like that, when you try to do that, they just keep pushing. We've seen it over and over and over again. And I want to see Indiana fight harder, because I just don't, it's not going to go away. I do not believe it's going to go away.
I'm gonna sort of speed things up here to make sure we get through everything. I'm gonna start the next segment with you guys. I want to move to the State House a little bit, and there's a couple bills I want to highlight that got some press this week. Though I should note, later this afternoon at 1:30, I'm going to be on with Jessica Bunch from Mad Voters, talking about the progress of certain bills at the State House. We're going to be looking at Mad Voters priority legislation, especially. That is again at 1:30 right here on these same fine affiliates. Now, at the State House this week, though, here with you guys, I wanted to mention that House Bill 1417 was filed last week by Representative Matt Lehman. This is let's say, a business-friendly bill that bundles several proposals aligned with the new business lobbying group's goals of curbing what they describe as frivolous lawsuits and excessive jury awards against Hoosier businesses. The alliance includes the Chamber of Commerce, the Indiana Manufacturers Association, the National Federation of Independent Business, Indiana Motor Truck Association, and Indiana Bankers Association among its supporters. They have retained former Senate President Pro Tem David Long to assist with government and media outreach, revolving door much. There's also another bill at the House, Senate Bill 267, authored by Scott Alexander, that would define paid protesters. Now, right now, anybody who earns over $500 in a year's time working as a lobbyist at the State House must register with the Indiana Lobbyist Regulation Commission. During the last IRLC registration, there were 884 lobbyists recorded at the State House. This bill would require the lobbyists' employers to register them instead, and they would have a shorter time period to do it. Now, I think this is one of those Trojan horse bills, because the bill also redefines the definition of a lobbyist to include anyone who is compensated to rally, gather, demonstrate, engage, or confront a legislative person or an executive person on public property. The author, Alexander, said he believes that paid protesters were present at the State House in December during the legislature's failed bid to establish mid-cycle congressional redistricting, because I don't think he can comprehend that Hoosiers aren't down with his crap. There's also a bill moving through on elections that would potentially shift the years of Indiana's municipal elections to even-numbered years in a bid to increase turnout in those elections. A study led by the Secretary of State's office last year concluded that moving municipal elections would lead to a boost in voter turnout that would more than make up for votes lost through ballot fatigue. That's when voters lose interest in a lengthy list of choices. Opponents of this bill are concerned that municipal politics will get lost in the national shuffle if they're held on the same timeline. Additionally, in election bills, there is a ban on ranked choice voting being debated at the State House. Author Blake Dorio, as well as Keegan Prentice of the Secretary of State's office, complained that ranked choice voting is complicated and confusing, while supporters from the League of Women Voters and Common Cause Indiana said the system offers voters more choice, and this ban serves no purpose as ranked choice is currently not used in the state. However, I should note that in 2020, the state Republican Party did use this method to select delegates. Additionally, at the State House, Republicans very interested in other people's parenting. There is a Let Kids Be Kids bill. Now, this is a bipartisan bill that would shield Hoosier parents from child welfare investigations solely for allowing their children age-appropriate independence. This cleared the House Judiciary Committee on Monday, following other proposals in recent years to broaden parents' rights and prevent unjust DCS inquiries. This is authored by Republican Jake Teshka of North Liberty. Under current law, families can be investigated or charged for allowing a child to walk to a store, play outside, stay at home alone, or sit in a parked car, often without meaningful reconsideration of the child's maturity, ability, or the actual level of risk involved. Finally, there is also a social media ban up for debate at the State House. That's Senate Bill 199, which would require social media platforms to verify users' ages and obtain parental consent for accounts of teenagers aged 14 to 17. Children under 14 would not be allowed to make or keep accounts. This bill would also enact a curfew for teen accounts from 10:30 p.m. until 6 a.m. Now, while social media bans usually face a legal battle, recent court decisions have allowed such laws to go into effect in Missouri and Florida. In December, the country of Australia became the first country to ban users under 16 from social media platforms. A lot there, a lot at the State House. Again, a lot more that I will talk about with Mad Voters here later this afternoon. But Lori, what jumps out to you there?
Well, I think the one thing that concerns me, and it was all interesting, and thank you so much for all of those links, because the child welfare thing I hadn't even heard of, so that was really great to read about that, and to know that there was like pretty good bipartisan support on that. But the thing that really concerns me the most is the whole lobbying thing. But it's not so much the bill that they're trying to implement. It's our response to it. And I love Shelley Yoder, don't get me wrong, but I want to say there was a snippet in there from her, a quote from her about how this would, this could, the byproduct of this is it could, it could chill free speech and that sort of thing. And I think what I really have tired of, and here in Indiana as well, we continue to talk like the loyal opposition. We need to call out these bills for what they actually are and say, we understand why you wrote this bill. This bill was written to chill free speech. I know that it turns out to be combative, but we need to call it out. I think Democrats need to stop trying to explain that it could do this or it could do that, and instead say, this is what they want it to do. This is why this bill was written, and we need to fight this bill. And that's what disturbs me most about all of it, because I assume, for the most part, when a Republican proposes some kind of bill, there's some nefarious nonsense behind it that's never going to be good. And I hate to say that, because I know we have some decent Republicans in the State House. I just don't think they have power or a voice, kind of like on the federal level. So I'm always suspect of all of them. And really, I dig in and try to see in their statements, like, oh, ranked choice voting, for instance, is a gimmick. Well, it's not a gimmick. He's just saying that. And I always when I read something they've said, I'm like, what words are they substituting for the words that really should be used? And what phrases are they leaving out? Like, this is too difficult. And like let's say they say such and such is too difficult. It's too difficult for Republicans to fight it or for Republicans to rig it. That's really what is behind what they're saying, but they make it sound benign when it really isn't. So that, in a general sense of everything you just talked about, is what stands out to me. Really read their statements, the Republican statements, and what do you think they're really saying that they're not using the right words for or finishing. And then I want our elected officials to, when they get up there to quote this and to talk about this stuff, please say it. You don't have to be combative and stoking anger, but they can get up there and say, this is what this is really about. And we need to have an honest conversation about that. Yeah. I don't know what it turned into, but it needs to be done. So.
Yeah, well, they say the ranked choice voting is too confusing. Well, maybe for them, because they're simple, small people. Brandon, I'm sorry. I said I was going to start this one with you. So my bad. Let me get your thoughts on some of this legislation. What there jumps out to you?
So being, an accounting legal dork like I am, the tort reform one is interesting. This lobbying group that brings in these heavy hitters from the revolving door, like David Long, to come in and basically it completely rewrites the rules. What they're trying to do there, to put it in layman's terms, is basically that's going to be an insurance group. I don't understand why the Indiana Alliance for Legal Reform didn't just name themselves the insurance lobby. Why did they name themselves the Indiana Alliance for Legal Reform? I like legal reform. I think everybody here is in alliance for legal reform. Not this type of legal reform, though. So one of the things that this would do is it would cap the total damages that a consumer can get against a business. But the damages are awarded in direct proportion to the perceived loss, right, under the court. And so what this is basically the insurance companies and other financial institutions trying to put a ceiling on the total loss that they could experience after they are proven in a court to cause somebody extensive hardship or be obligated to pay a claim, for example. And I do want to point out before we move on that Indiana has actually already had, this is like a little historical nugget. There was actually like Time magazine and like the New York Times and everybody else had Indiana became like the topic of national discussion in the mid-70s. And it was because there was a insurance lobbyist named Frank Cornelius who wrote the tort reform in Indiana in 1975, who later wrote an article titled "Crushed by My Own Reform," because he himself got bankrupted by the reform that he had championed in the Indiana State House for capping. In his case, it was medical malpractice. He wanted to cap. He was paid as an attorney to cap medical malpractice claims at $500,000, and ended up having a medical malpractice committed upon him, and could not recover the total loss that he experienced. It's kind of a hearkening back to what we were saying about how the red states voted for repeal of the ACA. But I mean, people need to, we are in a corporate overreach, and people need to start voting to defend their interest against the Republicans who want to allow corporations to endlessly sell out Hoosiers and put a cap on what you could possibly recover if you ever get hurt or injured or anything else. And based on the reason I picked it is because just based on the hirings and everything, I mean, it looks like the type of bill that might advance, because that is the type of things that insurance industries do. They hire. I remember when I was running for state rep, I got reached out to by the Consumer Energy Alliance or something like that. And it's
something benign sounding, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's always the coal lobby. They never come out. I wish they would just come out and say, we're the coal lobby.
Maybe if Democrats ever get back in power in the state, maybe they could pass a law that says you got to say what you actually are. Eric, I want to ask you about this social media thing. Now, maybe or maybe not, it's a good idea to keep teens off of social media. It may be, and now there are debates whether or not this infringes on parental rights. I mean, they're trying to expand parental rights in one bill and stifle parental rights in the other bill. But what I really want to think about is, like, I think some of our Republican legislatures should be kept off social media. These guys have been radicalized by the algorithm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the algorithm is horrible. But I would say that it's complex for me. On one hand, a lot of young people are doing research. They're learning things. They're learning issues. They know how to look at different sources. They know how to confirm if something's a real source or not. On the other hand, it does a lot of damage for everyone. Social media, not just young people, but young people are so impressionable that one example is I saw a meme that was an apple in a mirror, and it looks perfect in the mirror, but on the backside, the side we can see, it's all eaten and rotting, right? And so people put their best foot forward. They always show, oh, my life is so glamorous. I get so much. I'm so great. I'm so pretty. I'm all this. And then in reality, they're not that, but young people don't know that it's not all real. So then they compare their lives with things that they see online that causes depression. It causes maybe suicidal ideations. There's a lot of negative things. I also think that these generations that are growing up with social media are definitely less able to socialize in person, right? I've also seen some examples of people who will say whatever they want to on social media because they think they're protected. But then someone will say, "Oh, are you so and so at this address?" And then they freak out. How did you? Don't put that on. They start crying, and these are just young people that say something sexist or racist or homophobic because they're protected by that social media. So on one hand, I think there needs to be some regulation to protect young people, but I'm not sure where that line is between free speech and protection. No, and yes, there are some adults that should not be on social media. And I will say with AI, it's just got worse. Like it is so hard to tell if something is real or not. I don't want to call my mom out. My mom, 86-year-old mother, lives with me, and she was talking about some healthcare initiative or something, and she said, "No, Trump was on talking about it." And I said, "Well, what did he say?" And he was, whatever ad she saw was the opposite of what our current administration supports. And so I'm like, well, let's look at it. We looked at the source, and it has nothing to do with the government. There's not a .gov, in the website. I'm like, if it doesn't say, us.gov, it's not an official, policy. But she really thought that it might be, or we're getting a refund for this. It said so on my phone. Where on your phone?
Yeah.
So, I think we need some help, and we do need some regulation with AI and things. So that's what I have to offer. But I love the insight that everybody else has been sharing. Especially, I'm not too far from Brandon. I'm in South Bend, but I don't get to see a lot of politics that are going on in Indianapolis or in other parts of the state, and so I'm learning so much just being in here today too.
You know what, Eric, that's what we aim to do here, because the local media in this state is, well, MAGA captured often, or non-existent in many places, and the PBS stations are defunded. They got a lot of hard work ahead of them. So anything we can do to increase the amount of truth into the information space that we try to do that.
One more thing I'll add, and I think something that we need that I think Lori just did an excellent job, is I wish we had, let me see how I can put this. I think what makes Trump so successful, even when he wasn't president, he was given media time every day. So anything that's going on, he's criticizing it, it's ripping it apart. He even the good things, he's lying about it. So he just has a constant presence, pushing his ideas, derailing other things. Sometimes they might have been bad things. Most of the time, there are good things that I agreed with. We don't have anyone that does anything remotely like that has that access to the media. I think Gavin Newsom has been trying with his memes and his social media, and I love them. They're hilarious, but they're also poignant and make a point. But we need someone that can say, this bill came out, this is what it says, and this is what they really mean. Ladies and gentlemen, they're doing it again. We need someone that can not lie like Trump does, but to break it down, use some common sense and say, this is what they're really trying to get from this. This is what Trump is doing. This is what ICE is doing. This, and just to be critical and constantly deconstruct the lies and what they're doing. I don't know who that person would be, but I think that's what's missing in the Democratic Party in the state and in the country. We don't have that voice, that spokesperson. It could be a comedian. It could be anyone who could gain that access to that gain that attention and have the platform to do that on a regular basis is what we need. I think that's why Trump has been so successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I do need to hurry us along here. So there were a couple of important State of the State addresses this week. Now, Chief Justice of the Indiana State Supreme Court, Loretta Rush, gave her State of the Judiciary address on Wednesday, highlighting the teamwork among trial court judges, prosecutors, and public defenders, as well as reminding lawmakers of the deepening crisis of the growing attorney shortage in the state. Indiana ranks 43rd out of 50 states in the number of lawyers per capita, with the offices of prosecutors and public defenders being especially hit hard. But I really wanted to focus on Governor Mike Braun's State of the State address, where he trumpeted what he said were his first-year successes on Wednesday night. So this is from the Capitol Chronicle. Most of the address focused on affordability for Hoosiers, from electric bills and rent to property taxes and childcare. Now, Democrats pointed out numerous ways that Republicans are now hopping on the affordability bandwagon, giving examples of bills that the Democratic caucus have offered in recent years that Republicans rejected. Now, in his speech, Braun didn't really unveil a typical legislative agenda for his office, instead simply announcing support for several bills already moving through the legislative process. For example, he said he supports Representative Elena Schonkweiler's bill to protect Hoosiers from unnecessary utility rate hikes. While on the topic of energy, Braun issued a full-throated declaration of support for data centers. Moving to home ownership, Braun said he supports a bill from Representative Doug Miller of Elkhart to remove government hurdles and make it easier for Hoosiers to chase the American dream of owning a home. He also announced support for bills to limit cell phone use in schools, ensure that parents have veto powers over their kids' social media accounts, to curb homelessness in public spaces, and a constitutional change to make it easier to hold accused criminals in jail pre-trial. Braun also said affordable childcare is needed to grow the Indiana economy and help Hoosiers get better jobs, but that specific priority item will have to wait till next year. Braun also took time to list key accomplishments for his administration during the first year in office, touting property tax reform, efficiency in state government, improvements in education metrics, and GDP growth. Brandon, I'm going to come back to you here. What from the governor's State of the State speech stands out to you?
I found it pretty interesting when on the issue of trying to protect against rate hikes, he sounded pretty supportive of data centers, which
right.
Pin him on that. Like, forward that to the Indiana Democrats, everybody who's running everywhere. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how the people feel about these data centers popping up everywhere and how they feel it in their pocket. And so for Braun to talk about, and of course they've got their ways of framing it, right, where it's innovation, which it, you know, on the topic of these data centers, it is really a dangerous proposition, the way that they're being taxed, because they don't create jobs, they replace jobs, but they still receive tax abatements for the creation of jobs, which seems like an interesting, you know, to put on my Milton Friedman economist hat. What would Milton say about that? None of this makes sense, even to the most right wing of economists, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, again, no mention of the raising of the minimum wage. Our minimum wage is unchanged since 2009. He basically deferred childcare until next year in his speech, which is interesting. I'm sure that's okay. I'm sure Hoosier moms don't need it now. Hoosier families don't need it now.
You know, 30,000 kid wait list for child care vouchers in this state, and yeah, you know, if you want to have child care for your kid, you better I don't know, get on the wait list now. Eric, what about you? What stands out in Braun's thing there? I mean, like it sounds good to talk about affordability and keeping utilities affordable and rate hikes, but home ownership, right? But their policies have led us to the places where we're unaffordable and utility rates are going through the roof and people can't afford a house, right? I mean, what is it, Mike? Right?
Unbelievable that, you know, he's in favor of data centers, but also keeping prices low. You know, it's just proven that that's the opposite of how it works. Data centers will cost everybody more money. And there's a benefit to those data centers as well, but we also need to be honest about it and give people real information, and then they can make a decision based on facts. I don't think I can do much more than I agree with most of what Brandon said. I just get frustrated listening to those to the state addresses, because it just sounds like, I don't know, crap. To say it,
yeah, I was going to say, is bullshit the word you're looking for, Eric?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I get frustrated, and I have some ADHD, and I'm just watching it, and I get frustrated. I don't even want to watch it anymore. But yeah, he can't keep my attention with lies, and so again, I guess he was talking to his constituents, and I'm not one of them. So
yeah,
I live in Indiana, but he can't get my vote, so nothing he can say is going to change that.
Lori, does any particular turd stand out from the governor's steaming pile there?
Well, it was quite a steaming pile. Indeed, it is. I have no use for him. I just have no use for him. In general, I want to say the speech seemed like this glowing, wonderful, look at all the wonderful things I'm doing. It's very general. It's not specific. There's no numbers. There's no details or plans laid out about any specific topic he talked about, really. As far as I'm going to go back to this property tax thing, the people who benefit the most from the most recent property tax relief were, of course, commercial properties. It wasn't residential homeowners. So that's absurd. He talks about building homes, but there's not any talk about how renters might be able to afford their rent. And we're still going to that's a big issue. And they have no recourse because they have no legal protections. They keep voting all of that down. So renters really concern me for people who can't afford a home. The thing that really bothered me about the home comment was, or building homes easier, is he's going to get rid of government regulation. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Does that mean that they're just going to erect cardboard boxes? I mean, literally, I have to wonder, does that regulation mean that homes that are built will be less safe? And I'm going to tell you right now, I really believe that's what will be the case. So it won't be habitable homes, places that people want to spend their money and live in for an extended period of time if they're not built soundly and well and by some kind of protective laws that are in place for a reason. Mm-hmm. So that really concerned me the most about it.
Yeah, that definitely seems like, the Republicans offering up shortcuts to their real estate buddies. So we've only got about 15 minutes here, so I do want to kind of rush through these last couple. This one, kind of a light story, kind of not, because there are major tax implications for this. So Braun's State of the State address was sprinkled with football references, including a reference to this, and this is from Yahoo Sports of all places. So Senate Bill 27, which is up for debate at the State House, would establish a Northwest Indiana Stadium Authority and counts two major lawmakers among its authors, Majority Floor Leader Chris Garton and Appropriations Chair Ryan Mishler. This authority would be tasked with acquiring, financing, constructing, and leasing what's needed to construct an NFL stadium. The team, as Northwest Indiana attempts to lure the Chicago Bears out of the city. The team has both floated a new lakefront stadium near Soldier Field, projected to cost nearly $5 billion, and they also purchased land for a domed venue in the suburb of Arlington Heights, which would cost more than $5 billion. Both plans would require billions in taxpayer support from Illinois taxpayers. They're not too keen on the idea, so the Bears are looking to get some goodies from Indiana taxpayers. I've also included in the show notes an analysis from the Tax Foundation, in which they cite a recent literature review surveying the past 50 years of stadium construction. The authors found that the promised tangible economic benefits, economic growth, income growth, wage growth, employment growth, and higher tax revenues do not occur the way that sports teams claim. Often the only benefits occur near the stadium and fall far short of expectations. So state and city governments are subsidizing development within a single neighborhood with no tangible benefits for the rest of the city or the state. Now, Brandon, I hate to shit on this idea as you're there in Northwest Indiana with your Bears sweater on, got a big playoff game tonight. I grew up in Northwest Indiana. I am a Bears fan. I don't want any part of this.
Yeah, so I'll admit when I saw this, I'm like, oh man, this is like the worst thing for me to comment on, because everybody politically, this is like it's a political football in Northwest Indiana. You have everybody has to fawn over support for it. You got, the Hammond Mayor, McDermott, Gary Mayor, Melton. Everybody is writing up proposals because they have to. It's like basic governmental due diligence if they don't. But we, the people, do not need to pay for sports stadiums. The McCaskey family is worth billions of dollars.
Yep.
And it is this constant, it's a shell game. It's an economic shell game, race to the bottom, being committed against these communities. Our state is being leveraged against the city of Chicago in this maneuver, and all the people of Chicago. And, $350 million on subsidies, money that we could have. And of course, they always try to act like, oh, well, we wouldn't have it if not but for that. But if you continue that logic with race to the bottom economics, eventually none of us will have anything. So always keep that in mind.
And it pains me to say as a Bears fan, but one team is really good at doing this the right way, and that's the Green Bay Packers. Yeah.
Scott, we might have to have a special segment at some point about the great conflict that exists within me, because I'm a Cubs fan, but I may or may not have observed that the White Sox are a more working class team. I'm not going to admit to that at this point in time. I'm just going to state that might be something that I've observed. But even worse so, the Packers are the only publicly owned franchise of all North American sports franchises. And that I want it to have a place in my heart, but man, I would betray everybody. I'm a big sports fan. If I were to come out tomorrow as a Packers fan, I would have friends that might literally kill me.
Yeah. It's complicated. They stir up the complicated feelings. Sports has a unique place in our culture. I want to move on to our last story here today. So this one, Bo Bai, the son and grandson of U.S. senators, of former Governor Evan Bai, is vying to be Secretary of State as a Democrat. Well, we got some finance information from him this week, and he has reportedly raised nearly $2 million in the first 3 months of his Secretary of State campaign, more than every other Democrat who's vied for the office in more than a decade has raised their entire election cycles. Now, his campaign issued a press release touting that most of his donations are under $100 and 85% of them are from Indiana. Without really talking about that the vast majority of this money is coming from large donors, many of whom are out of state, many of whom are Republican-leaning donors. One of this like William Obendorf guy or something is a big school choice, quote-unquote guy, a voucher guy. I just saw somebody texted me this morning. It's like before I even got into the chat. Mr. Bai received a $25,000 donation just recently from a fellow named Mark Rowan, who is one of these guys associated with Apollo Global Capital, huge Trumper involved in this Gaza scheme. Apparently, I am told that even other Democrats in Indiana are like, bro, you got to reject this one. And the Bai campaign is refusing to return this money. So I don't know, Lori. People's champ, is this our best bet to win state office? And if we do win state office, taking Republican money, is it even worth it?
No, I totally agree. This is bad, bad, bad. It really, really, really bothers me. And it's not I don't care if he has a D behind his name. I don't care. If he's taking that kind of money, that dark blood money, whatever you want to call it, it's not going to bode well for any progress we can make in Indiana. I'm not even sure the kid is qualified. I don't care that his dad was Evan Bai. I don't care that his grandfather's Birch Bai. Oh God, Birch Bai, he was so wonderful. So I don't have really much to say on that other than all you need to know is where the money's coming from to know that this is a really bad deal. I just would encourage people to really think about it. If they advocate for him, to research where it's coming from. There's a reason that Trump Republicans would donate, and that would be because they want MAGA light here. That's what they want. That's yeah. I love me some Blythe Potter, I have to admit.
Eric, fair criticism. I mean, look, the Democrats will say, look, we need the money to compete. We need it to win. And I say, well, to do what when you win? To owe these people favors?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. And especially education is absolutely under attack. And especially in Indiana, they're closing schools in urban areas, and then they turn around and sell the buildings for like $1, and then they open a charter school. And you're probably more aware than I am, but they're trying to get tax money to go to these charter schools that benefit just a few students. Clay High School's right around the corner, not far from where I live, and they said they had to close it down because they had like 60% capacity. But then when a charter school opens, it'll have like 20% capacity, and they get it for $1, and then they can make money from it, and then get paid using tax dollars for that. Yeah, absolutely not. So I don't like that kind of money coming into a Democratic campaign, because we don't know what the promises are, or how you can get money from there and then still push Democratic agenda, especially with education. There's probably some other
certain things should not be for sale, should they, Eric? Public education should not be for sale. People's health care should not be for sale. And our Democratic politicians should not be for sale. Brandon, say, now I know we didn't get a chance to get to it, but like you brought up that if folks are interested in a different kind of Democratic politics, there is a way they can be getting involved right now. Yes?
Ever the consummate podcast segue host. Look at you, Scott. That was great. Great segue. So obviously, Bo is not the Democratic nominee. That will be decided at the state convention that is hosted on June 6th. And I say this, I am speaking, if I could give some sort of pitch directly to the camera, like as John Travolta or something. But I'm a delegate and I'm a committeeman. I was first elected as a committeeman about a decade ago. I'm a 4 or 5 time delegate, and I recommend to everybody, if you are somebody who is listening to the Who's Left podcast, you are somebody who should be a delegate and who should be a committee person in the party. People don't realize that these positions caucus in replacements. They vote on endorsements. Those endorsements, say what you will about the Democratic Party's branding, but they have sway. Their mail lists have sway. And the way that we impact these things, I know Tom Hartman's always on his show talking about get involved in the party. And it ain't going to be perfect. It ain't always going to be fun. But in direct regard to the delegates and Blythe versus Bo, that's getting decided on June 6th at the state convention. But the deadline to file for that is February 6th by noon. And if you need help, you can reach out to Scott. He will surely route your question to where it needs to go. I'll help him out on that. But I really, in 2018, I know that this isn't quite, but the reason that there's a women's caucus today is because of the organizing of people like Carmen Darland and Amanda Schutte, who organized a thing called 92 County Strategy. And there's resolutions and rules decided on at that convention, so you can put pressure on those issues as well. And it's only one day. And so if you are somebody who is interested in Democratic politics in the state of Indiana, like I say, if you are listening to this podcast, if you are an audience of Who's Left, I already know relative to other people who sign up, there's going to be people on that list who have no intention of showing up to Indianapolis. They're just taking a spot. There's going to be people on that list who more or less purchased a seat, so to speak. So you are better than that. You're listening to this podcast. You want to inform yourself. You are better than that. You are better than a lot of the people who are serving as precinct committee people. Reach out to me. I will get you a list of registered voters in your precinct if you're running. I encourage all of you, the party, and it doesn't work perfectly like this, but it's supposed to be a ground up apparatus from the delegates determining what the state party does, and the precinct committee people determining what the county parties do, and those two being elected on the ballot. If you've got an issue, every time you've ever been upset about something the Indiana Democratic Party did, guess what? In a really convoluted way, we do have control over it.
Yep.
I want to point out we're not one of the states like 30 other states who elect their own state chair. Just throwing that out there. There are ways to change rules mechanisms. You can fundamentally change the party with the right structured rules and resolutions presented at state convention, and you can change your county party with the right rules and resolutions presented in those circumstances. In my experience, it's very much not like that. That's politics in reality is a lot of coffee houses and setting signs up. So I don't recommend going in with the idea that you're going to pass like 10 party changing resolutions. But I like the attitude. I like the spirit. That is the place where it all begins. And through that, I can say both me and people I've organized with have had influence on people who we've basically decided small time races, caucuses. We have had influence on larger scale races and candidates. And again, I'm not saying it's perfect process, but the fruits of our labor has been seen. We passed RBO in Chesterton, a restricted bidder ordinance that protects, that sets wage standards in Chesterton. And that, in a very convoluted way, it was a product of organizing that started in Porter County in 4 or 5 years ago. So sign up. It's a CAN 37 form. All you got to do is get it notarized, fill it with your County Board of Elections. If you have any questions about your delegate district or precinct, reach out to me, reach out to Scott, comment on this video. I'll be happy to answer anybody's questions. There's lots of, reach out to the Blythe Potter campaign, reach out to anybody that they'll have answers. Reach out to, you can reach out to your county chair and they should give you the right answer. They're supposed to.
Not all of them will. It can be frustrating to be a Democrat in Indiana sometimes, and but I always tell people, like, the party, it's an empty vessel. It is just a series of chairs arranged in a certain way, and it's only as good as the people filling those chairs. That should be you. That should be us. I am going to be a delegate. I will be at the convention on June 6th. I will see, hopefully, many of you there. But for now, let's wrap this thing up. Lori, where can the good people find you on the interwebs if they want to holler at you?
Well, right now, I have a Substack publication is called What About Indiana? I've been so busy, I've hardly been able to put any posts out, but that's a good way to look for me. Honestly, since I'm an actor, if you really want to reach out to me without giving you a whole long email address, LoriEckerActress.com is where you can find me, although I'm mostly a political activist now. So that's how you can reach me. And I'm also with Indivisible Central Indiana, if you want to try and reach me through them as well. Thank you so much.
Very good. Yeah. Thank you, Lori. Eric, how about you?
Mostly social media. I'm in the process of developing a new website for my consulting business, but at the moment, the social media. You can search my name.
All right, fantastic. And Brandon, close us out.
Well, it's a good reminder that on Wednesday at noon, campaign finance reports are due, and you can reach out to me through that email inbox. I've developed a system that automatically does campaign finance reports. You can get me at brandon@campaignfinance.app. You can also find me, Brandon, at the Ballot Boxers. You can look me up on Facebook. You can find my number somewhere. I'm a pretty public person, so any way you want to reach out to me, just go for it. Also, I'm the only Dothager I know, so just go for that last name.
All right, very good. Finally, you can find me online at HoosLeft.us on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads. On Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, it is at Who's Left. Also, again, please subscribe on Substack over at progressiveindiana.net and follow us on Progressive Indiana Network on the social medias, on Blue Sky and TikTok. It's PIN Indiana. I think that covers it all. On behalf of my guests today, Lori Ecker, Eric Love, and Brandon Dothager, I am Scott Aaron Rogers. Love each other, Indiana.